Historic investment, but it's money some believe is being misspent. This afternoon, the governor officially announced who will be receiving $243 million for economic recovery in North and South Omaha. This is a story 6 News started investigating earlier this week, and 6 News' Joe Harris joins us live in the newsroom. Joe, you were at the announcement today. What did Pillen have to say about the grants?
Well, Aaron, Governor Jim Pillen, Omaha Mayor Jean Stothert, and others are touting these economic recovery grants as a way to help businesses succeed. But it isn't without its critics. This week, 6 News reported on a debate in the legislature regarding $90 million going to the airport business park as part of the North Omaha Recovery Act. The Nebraska Department of Economic Development previously told 6 News the money will go to infrastructure so that new businesses will be able to hit the ground running. However, some lawmakers like Senator Justin Wayne of Omaha say the money is supposed to be about creating jobs and that some of these projects do not seem to do that. Governor Pillen responded to that criticism today.
It doesn't matter what their designation is. They're here to make differences and create economic opportunity in our communities, period. It doesn't matter what the business is, whether it's called a nonprofit. I've never been around a nonprofit that doesn't make profit to make a difference for their community.
Now, Pillen goes on to say every grant awardee is about economic activity and creating jobs for the next 7 generations. Now, in the last 20 minutes, Senators Wayne and Terrell McKinney issued a response to Pillen's press conference today, saying today's investment fell short of the legislature's transformative promise and that more than 75% of the funds are being channeled into nonprofit projects with little to no economic development. Aaron?
All right, Joe, thank you.